Kevin. So let's talk about burnout. Workplace burnout, I think, is a increasingly a weird concept or symptom that people find themselves in, especially in the pandemic and after the pandemic. A lot of people find themselves burnout or have symptoms of burnout. Let's say a lack of motivation, feeling lethargic, low energy level, the work performance suffered, and they just seems to can't help themselves to be motivated or energetic. So kind of very lethargic. Yeah. In short. So have you experienced that before? And if so, or have you have observed behavior of people suffering similar cases of burnout, and how do people handle this?
Yeah, I suffered both myself and observed plenty others, who had burned out. And if I look back, I would say it comes from a general lack of balance, right? Um, when you first do something and you feel excited about doing it, and you tell yourself and hype yourself up and say, I'm all in, okay? And you plow every ounce of energy into that, okay? Now, by personal experience, when you do something so intense, it's not sustainable, okay? So at some point in time, the intensity level has got to calibrate down because your body and your mind and spirit can't take it. But if at work, there is this culture, or you set yourself your own expectation to do something that is unrealistic and unsustainable, and you do it despite your body and your mind telling you that, hey, this is getting bad, and you still go ahead, then at some point, that burnout that you just talked about will appear. That's a symptom of that, right? And sometimes burnout happens to even the most interesting of jobs, okay? Because, as I say, it's the lacking of balance. So in my observation, to address the burnout, the number one thing is to restore balance. So, well, let's talk about the concept of balance. What is balance? Life is just a dose of time and energy. So energy is there when you're awakened and you have 16 hours, give or take. You sleep 8 hours, give or take. Okay. When you're sleeping, there's no energy required because you're unconscious. You're just lying there. When you're awake, that's when energy and time make things happen. Okay. So then balance is what you do in that time that you can do something with. That 16 hours. How do you allocate the time? Okay. And the balance is the proportions in which you allocate things in relative proportion to each other. How much time do you allocate to work? How much time do you allocate to rest? How much time do you allocate to exercise? How much time do you allocate to socialize? How much time do you allocate by yourself? And everybody's need for balance is unique. So for you, maybe you need more time to yourself, maybe me too. For other people, that may be less, and they need more time with other people socializing. Okay. And at work, if they had been constantly doing, I don't know, 14 hours, 15-hour work, that is unsustainable. And the more managing work hours may be 10, 12 hours, because, every day, the extra 2 or 3 hours makes a huge difference. Okay, because it makes a difference when you come back home after dinner, you have that extra 2 or 3 hours to do the things that you want to do. Whatever it is that you want to do, play some music, listen to some music, watch a movie, go out with people. And essentially when you have a break and your mind takes a break, everything resets. Okay. When your brain is doing something constantly of the same nature over a long period of time, and the brain feels like that's all I do, the brain gets bored. Okay. And this is the primary reason for burnout. It doesn't matter how good something is, the brain gets bored. With a few exceptions, some people pursue, some what they would call the life goal. They will never get bored. Right? Let's say some Japanese ramen master. That's all they do all day. But even that, I think they have balance too. They don't just make ramen all day long. It's just that apart from the balance of doing other things, that's all they do, right? So they are finding relative balance. So yes, it has got something to do with the meaningfulness of the things that you do. So maybe that plays a part. So you're constantly on a job that you don't like, that you're not good at, but you're pushing yourself in order to perform to satisfy your own expectation. I want to be someone at this level, earning this kind of money. Okay, that might be one way to do it. Okay, you can just power through it despite not liking it. I've done that before. Okay, so I can speak with personal experience. There is a point in which you say, oh my God, when is it ever going to be enough? When can I get out of here? Okay. And so I did at some point, right? I think it's likely that, everyone in their entire life would encounter this once or twice at least, with things that they do. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just a natural phenomenon where you lose some balance in your life, okay, and you need to restore it. And I would just say the way you approach this is to just sit down with yourself, and it depends on what kind of person you are. Are you a thinking person? Are you a writing person? Are you a drawing person? But whatever preference you have to express yourself, think about how you allocate your time currently and take a look at that. What kind of balance does it achieve, or doesn't it? Ask yourself, what would you wish you spend more time doing if there is something that you wish you could do and you're not doing enough of? Okay. And then when you have those ideas, give it a try. Now, I understand certain jobs allow you to work certain hours and you feel like that you don't have a choice. Maybe not immediately, but I think you can always plan ahead and create those. For example, when you go on leave or you have an honest conversation with your boss, okay? Not to say, can I work 4 days a week? No, but, within reasons, you're going to say to them, look, I feel very stressed out because my workload is over there. Is it possible that someone can share my workload? Can we hire someone junior to take this part away from me so I can actually have a more reasonable working hours? All of those are possible conversations you can have, solutions you can have for you to restore the balance. But I think by and large, you have to take some responsibility for creating that balance and suggesting the solution to the people that might have the power to make it happen. I think it's not a good idea to just be reactive to it and just thinking that nothing's going to change, and then because most probably nothing will, if that's the case.
I mean, if you don't proactively change it, people are not going to change it for you, right? So less likely. And just to add a side note, the energy we talk about is mostly mental energy. It's not really physical energy, because if we talk about the nature of work in Hong Kong or most modern economies are most likely intellectual work, less about physical work. And there are even instances where you get to recharge your mental energy by depleting your physical energy. Let's say you go to exercise, you just have a sweat, and then you actually feel more energized inside your mind. So because it's a different activity, just like what you mentioned, balance, right? So if you just sit there all day, look at the computer, or just look at paperwork, then it's going to drain your mental capacity. But if you just go out for a walk, like you mentioned, you stop or change to another activity, it's going to recharge the other side of things. Yeah. And I think that's a key distinguishment people should have. Yeah.
I think, yeah, that's when you talk about the physical side of the 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 activity, sometimes when you feel lethargic, it's a physical feeling, but it's not because you don't have the energy, like you say, right? You just don't feel like moving. You have plenty of calories, that you carry, and you have the caloric energy to actually fulfill those movements, but you just don't feel like doing it. You don't want to get out the door. You don't want to get out of bed. You don't want to get off the sofa, And I've been through that stage many, many times. And I think every time I got out of it is because I have habitualized something that that I have to schedule. So, for example, I need to get up at a certain time in order to then say work my way back, and say that means I have to go to sleep a certain time. Okay. And when I get up at a certain time, I'm going to do certain things. So, for example, I get up, let's say 7:30, I need to go for a walk. And I need to walk certain distance, and then I come back home. If I build up this habit, then there is an autopilot trigger that, I think you feel the same way every day, that you don't really need much conscious effort to maintain. It just, boom, it just happened, right? It's easier that way. So for those people who feel that they have a weak mind, particularly, this is important to listen. Don't rely on self-discipline. Build a habit. Okay. It takes a few days to build a habit. I think everybody has a different theory. Some people say 21 days. Some people say 60 days. I'm not here to argue which one's right. I'm just simply saying you have to create the pocket of time where you will not be disrupted for that habit to take hold. So if you're working, you have to make sure this habit happens at a time where you definitely are not working, for that to take hold. And once you've done that, you have basically invested a solid chunk of value, okay, which is going to keep paying you dividend over life, assuming that activity is something good for you, right? So exercise, for example, I mean, I don't do any strenuous exercise. I go for a walk. Now, it's as minimalist as you can get, a walking exercise, but it's a brisk walk. And I don't go out there and just kind of relax and drag my feet. No, I do a proper walk as if I walk with a purpose, trying to go somewhere. And I maintain a certain distance, so I don't just, but I don't care if it rains, if it shines, and whatever. And I just get up and go. Okay. Now, it's a lot more important that you do something small, but you do it every day, than you do something really big, but you do it occasionally, right? So walking a 10,000 mile once a year is not the same as walking 1 mile every day. It's not. And actually, you get more likely to injure yourself if you walk, intensively over in one day. So I find that small, consistent things works far better, more sustainable over time than big occasional things, because those are more likely to demand a lot more time that maybe you don't have all the time. It also demands a lot more energy that sometimes you just don't have. But small little bit, yeah, I can manage. Therefore, you don't have excuse not to do it.
Maybe just have a walk after lunch if the lunch hour is long enough, right? So
Yeah.
maybe 1 or 2 days in a week, you just have a quick lunch and then you walk around the office. I mean, not in a very dense street, so depends. And so a final question, what
Yeah.
if I find myself already burned out? Is there any quick solution to alleviate or minimize or just reduce the level of burnout? Then any quick solution, basically.
Take time off. if you're talking about quick, there's nothing quicker than that. Take time off, but not just take it off, but I think you should plan what to do with that time off in a meaningful way that helps you relieve some of the burnout feeling. So I wouldn't take time off with your friends and go get drunk every single day, for example, even though you might feel like it. I'm not judging that you shouldn't. I'm just saying I wouldn't if I were that person. If my purpose of taking time off was to reduce the burnout sensation. I almost would say do something that is unnatural, right? Rather than going and enjoying myself, I would go in hibernation, maybe join a retreat, because burnout is about intensive activities over a long period of time. So to cure the burnout, maybe you just need a break with no activity, not even talking, not even doing. So you go to retreat, certain retreats, you don't look at people. You can walk around a place, but you do not have eye contact. You do not talk to people. Let's say it's a 10-day retreat. For 9 days, you don't. And then on 10th day, you can socialize and you share experience and share insights and things like that, for example. And so what you do is you're shocking the system with something completely different, completely opposite to what you do. And the reason for that is to create perspectives for comparison. It's not to shock you, to cure anything. No, it's to give you a perspective of what it could be if you do this. It sounds so weird. Why would I pay something to somewhere and do nothing and say nothing? Right? And eat very little. And, that's not a holiday, Kevin. That sounds like, no, that's like a con job. This guy's trying to make money. I think it's some con spiritual guy who's trying to want to take my money, give me very little thing to do. But it's not for everyone. I'm not suggesting everyone should do it, but if this idea sounds like something appealing, I would say it might be a good experience to try.
It's like not necessarily start right off with 10 days, maybe 3 days first, because
Right.
I've heard about like this silence retreat, right? So
Yeah.
usually the most effective one would be around 5 days, but in order to be effective, it takes at least 3 days. I think more than that, it depends. And yeah, I think that's also a very good point.